Can I start off, Ahsan Ahmadi, with, I mean, it's obviously an attempt to counter the messages people get through the media, but are you seriously saying that at the moment none of those messages are positive, and that you have to take what, I mean, some will regard as a slightly desperate measure, actually, going house to house and putting leaflets through doors?
It's the issue is this, that we actually took a survey a year or so ago, and the clear message that came from the survey was that there was a clear misunderstanding of Islam in the population at large, in the British.
People thought it was threatening.
Absolutely. And the sort of thing they were saying that Islam is a terrorist religion, it's an evil religion, etc. And these messages were coming loud and clear. And as a result of this, the leaflet campaign was started. But to promote that campaign, we needed to advertise ourselves clearly. But the bus campaign is only to support this leaflet house-to-house visits. It's not a leaflet that people want to read. It's a leaflet that we want to tell people about. So we are actually going to be visiting people house by house, every household in the next 10 years.
Every household in the country?
Every household in the country in the next 10 years. And it's a large task. And it's already been started. And already we've distributed, 1.3 million leaflets in the first year.
Shajari, you're not convinced?
No, I'm not. I mean, the issue is not lack of information or knowledge. The issue is that actually we've got a very negative image being promoted. It's not an issue of there's no knowledge, so we have to inform people. We are getting bombarded by media, by politicians, from very negative images of Islam. You go on Google and you actually do a search, and you see 80 to 90% of the issues that comes out when you put Islam is very negative perception of it.
Well, here we are. These leaflets will combat that.
But no, it doesn't, because it's very much like sort of saying that to deal with the racism in past, you just got to put an advert on the buses and say black people have got equal intelligence, and everybody will read it and say, oh yes, I didn't know that. I'm not going to be a racist from tomorrow. Or homophobia will be sort of addressed in the same way. What we have understands from the past xenophobia and the way it was dealt with, that it needs to be a comprehensive way of legal, cultural change, and media change, political sort of will, and comprehensive.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Masood to some extent with what he's saying. But this campaign is not just about buses. It's not just about leaflets. There's a bigger campaign. There's peace seminars we are holding throughout the country, in all the communities that we belong to. There's a website related to this, Love for All, Hatred for None. So it's a slow campaign. They say small drops make large oceans.
Can I put to both of you, though, that for a lot of people, actually this is a PR response to a really fundamental problem within your faith, and that possibly you should be devoting your energies to campaigning, if you like, against your fellow Muslims and against Muslim extremists, rather than coming out to people, because people are frightened, if they are frightened, in many cases for good reasons, because they see the Islamic faith as being a threat, potentially in Britain, but certainly elsewhere in the world, and that real Muslims are doing really bad things to each other, and it's being reported. It's not a hate campaign against you, it's just a reporting.
I agree with that, but also we've got to take into consideration, just like in a football match, you get a very small minority who are hooligans, who ruin the name for the rest of the larger population.
But perhaps you should be addressing yourself to them.
It's not just an issue. There is a misinformation out there. I mean, for example, the last Europol actually said that there were 300 and odd acts of terrorism in Europe, 2 of them committed by Muslims. The previous year, it was actually 598, only 1 committed by Muslim. That sort of information doesn't come out. All we get is an individual terrorist, which is a terrorist and criminal, being associated, and then positively is not associated. For example, when a Muslim boxer becomes the world champion, they say British boxer. When somebody actually commits an act of criminality, then is associated with its fate. That is the sort of thing we need to tackle.
And we only have to look at America, where some of the bombings were done by Christian fanatics, and nothing was associated with Christianity but to people of America. But when a Muslim did it, it was an Islamic terrorist. And I think these are the sort of things we're trying to counteract. Right. And I think this task that we were doing is actually to promote that.
My concern is that we should, rather than spending this money on something that's already been spent, we need to create the infrastructure to support the victims, which unfortunately is not being done.